And so it's really cool. Mine's a very tartan, like Scottish look. I almost wore it for this. Yeah, it's very. I bet you got some killer ones like from your BMX days. So you got like probably these skull ones, right? Tell me.
Well, I used to have really rad stuff like that.
Oh, rad. Yeah. Okay. For everyone watching today, we always have to do some sort of bingo. So today it's going to be how many times does Wade say rad or any other old like late 80s, early 90s terminology? Okay, Wade. We're going to go with one so far. Go with rad. For everyone, grab your coffee. We're going to kick off here in a few minutes. Rad. You haven't seen the Twitter spiel I put on you yet. Please don't leave yet, Wade. But I did have fun on Twitter. I'm not going to lie.
All right, I'll check it out.
It made me happy because I'm so bored right now. I can't stand myself. I so need something to do. I'm just going nuts. Absolutely nuts. All right. Slowly but surely, people joining in. Hopefully, everybody that is on Moov.io in that Slack channel is here now.
There's a lot of West Coast folks, so.
That's all right. It's early. They're having their coffee. They'll be all right. All right, everybody. Why don't we kick off so we can stay slightly on time for once. Good morning, folks. Welcome to the 4th episode of Fintech Insider, the Breakfast Show US. This is the show from 11FS, bringing you interesting insights into the fintech and banking landscape every day at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For British friends, that is 4 p.m. For Wade, it is
9.
9? Oh, yeah, I had to do math. It was bad. It was really bad. I'm Sam Maule. I'm 11FS Managing Director for North America. I'll be your host this morning. The idea, we're all going to be cooped up for the next month or 2 or 3. Lord only knows. We wanted a way to kind of keep the sense of community that we have in the fintech space and with our 11FS family. So to do that, we decided we'd do this morning show. We're doing it here. We're doing it in London. Response has been really great. So today we're excited. We're joined by Wade Arnold. Wade is, I got to read all these. It's a lot, Wade. Founder of Moov.io, an investor at BillGO. Congratulations on that one. That was a good call. Yeah. An overall technologist. He founded Banno. He's got a bike company, or you did have a bike company. I can't remember.
I do.
You still have that? Yeah. Oh, good. We'll talk about that later. So today, though, I want to talk about Moov. I really want to talk about banking core infrastructure because Wade will go on several rants. I'm going to love this. I can't wait to do this. But first, Wade, where are you at right now? I know you're at home. Where's home?
Yeah, I live in just west of Golden, Colorado. So 20 minutes due west of the Broncos Stadium, but about 2,200 feet above Denver. So as the crow flies, I would be 2 miles west of Red Rocks Amphitheater. So up in the mountains and hanging out.
You were in Iowa before that, is that right? You moved from Iowa to Colorado?
Yeah, I spent 40 years in Iowa, University of Northern Iowa Computer Science, Iowa MBA, and that's where Banno is at. And it's kind of the fintech capital of the world with Dwala and Smarty Pig and Banno and Lincoln Savings Bank, Veridian Credit Union, all kinds of goodness going on there.
And to quote Wade right before we went live, I moved out to Colorado because I don't like people. Which is the same for everyone who lives in Idaho, Montana, Colorado, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, anything over there. I just don't like people, so you move out there. We're gonna go with that. Just everybody, that was humor and sarcasm. Yeah. So
skiing and bike riding isn't too bad out here.
That is true. That is absolutely true. All right, so let's dive in. Since we only have 30 minutes, and Wade and I could spend 15 minutes ripping each other. One, can you describe what Moov.io is, why you started it, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So Moov.io was a passion project for me. So before I started Banno, was very, very technical. Contributed to a bunch of open source projects. I think one of the reasons Banno was successful was being a technical founder. We had no problem attracting really talented nerds that enjoyed the craft of software development. And that was something I was passionate about. So it was something that I was always willing to allocate resources for. So being a CEO that understands technical debt, I think created a really neat culture there. Fast forward a couple of years, and Ben Metz took over all the technical side of things, and I was basically biz dev sales and Twitter personality. And so after leaving Jack Henry, one of my focuses was, hey, I want to get back to kind of these roots of being a computer scientist. I consider myself a software engineer first and entrepreneur by accident, and I don't even know how the hell I got into what's now called Fintech, but opportunity, I guess. And so one of the frustrations that I've always had was I felt like it was harder to integrate into legacy systems than it was to, frankly, just rebuild them. And so Moov.io started as a API to protocol. So whether that was Notch ACH, Fedwire, ISO 8583, ISO 20022, X9, which is Image Cache Ledger or Check 21, all these protocols out there, they aren't differentiators for any business. They're just something that needs to work. And if you're abstracted 7 layers from the internet and the cloud all the way down to a mainframe over a ISDN line and CICS gateway adapter and RPG calls to COBOL that the person who wrote is either retired or dead, it seemed easier to rebuild these in a modern microservices fashion. And what's been fun about the project is we have hundreds of people that are contributing to it. It's all these API to protocols are Apache 2, so open source, like true open source. And it's been a lot of fun to get back into tech and use that as my passion project and build something that I think the community really needs in order to innovate faster.
So I had joked around about with Derek Sutton yesterday when we did this, that essentially what was going to happen. Yeah. So, hey, Derek, I'm sure he's out there.
Yeah.
So I said, what's going to happen tomorrow is Wade's going to talk, and then I'm going to translate what he said into banker speak. And Derek goes, that was my job title for like 3 years. I was the Wade translator. I love that. That is true. So let's give everybody a
I had like 9 people at Banno that were the Wade translator. Brian McCarty and Abby Wood and Ben Metz.
That's how many it takes. If Ben Metz was your translator, oh my God, we just should stop the show now. So let's give everybody an example of this, okay? So let's say I'm building we'll say a challenger bank, right? So I'm at Chime, right? Or take your pick. And I have to do the whole OFAC side of this, right? So I have to be able to go out and do my OFAC call and all that. So how could something like Moov.io help me with that? What lift do I get actually going out to that GitHub library and looking at your call?
Yeah, so we have a project called Watchmen. Watchmen is Of
course you do. Sorry. Go ahead.
So what is OFAC, right? What is sanctions lists? These are government lists that are freely distributed on the internet and updated on, some interval. And they need to be searched. And a lot of vendors use words like fuzzy search or, AI, ML, cloud, big data, all these terms in order to sell their wares. But it's public domain lists. It's public domain algorithms that are probably in the standard library of most programming languages. And if not, they're on Wikipedia. And so we have a project that puts a REST API in front of downloading all these sanctions lists in order to individuals from all over the world, and it searches against it, and you can dispose if there's false positives, and you can tweak the algorithm yourself, and there's no black box. It is what it is. It's on GitHub, and you can work on it. And companies like Linden Labs, which is Second Life, DigiCert, which is the largest SSL certificate company out there, utilize the project in order to check people before they do business with them or send them money, which is, I can argue that there's lots of companies with probably more fine-tuned or more granular algorithms out there, but most people aren't signing up 1 million people a month. They're signing up 1,000 people a week. So if you have to double check, an extra 5 people rather than do 25 rather than 20, and it's free and it's embedded into your infrastructure, that's a pretty good deal.
So let's talk about that word free. So what does an OFAC call normally cost me? Let's say I'm using some other provider.
Yeah. So if you're going from, in the United States, one of the large 3, that could probably be $5, $6 the first time you add the person, and $1 a month to monitor that. Some of the more progressive API driven solutions are still going to be $1 or $2 with for your first search, and then in the sense on an ongoing basis. But I think there are some people that come to it from a cost saving standpoint, but the majority of the drivers are, I want to have this embedded in my infrastructure. I want to use this like I use any other piece of technology in my infrastructure. And I want to be able to test it on my laptop and deploy it into staging and work with it before it goes into production. And it's just some black box over there that I have to pay a vendor $20,000 a year for.
So what Wade has just described, and again, let's go back to what's your cost again? What was that word? I think it was free, right?
Well, it's Apache 2.
Okay.
We do offer hosting services for a lot of these pieces, because really what it comes down to is someone says, "Hey, this is great. I want to dev on this. I want to tweak this algorithm for me. I want to maybe add some contributions because we do business in Australia and the project doesn't have the Australian sanctions list in it. So, I'm going to spike for 2 days to add that in there. I'm going to run it all. And when we end up hosting it, it's because people want an SLA or they don't want PII data on their infrastructure. But for the most part, that I don't see that any different than, I've got a Kubernetes cluster on my desk with 5 Raspberry Pis, and I know how to run Kubernetes, but I pay Google Cloud in order to keep it up to date and managed and give me an SLA. And it's a similar paradigm. It's giving developers actually what they need in order to be productive and develop quickly the solutions that they need to build for their companies. And then their deployment strategy, that's kind of a different conversation.
Yeah, but this whole concept that we talked about, though, so I'm starting to build out. Let's say I was just starting from scratch, right? I'm starting to piece together everything I need to build something to allow me to do payments or to go into banking. And what has happened, this is going to be a fun little chat between Wade and I. What has happened over the decades is that these things have been pieced together by multiple vendors, by multiple solutions, by multiple cores. Wade went on a little rant earlier when he was being nice, when he actually talked about COBOL, and it made me smile, right? When he talked about, here's all the different layers. Wade actually has a tweet that I want to make into a t-shirt, which shows those multiple layers going across, right? All the way to get to the data, right?
Yeah.
That talked about it. And that is what every single one of us in banking lives through. I mean, that's life, that we have so many different vendors that are all a black box, that the reality is, if we had to say what services we were consuming versus what we're paying for, Corey LeBlanc, a good friend from Origin Bank, who's probably on this right now. Great example. He talked about that. And we've talked about this a million times. And I've talked about this with other folks at banks. When they go out and they say, I'm using this third-party provider and I'm paying this much over a 3 to 5 year contract. But the reality is, how much of those services am I using? So in layman's terms, here's the equivalent. Wade, you're going to love me for this. In layman's terms, this is me going to a New York diner where the menu is 8 pages long, right? I mean, 8 pages long. And it'd be the equivalent of walking into the diner, goes, please have a seat. And I literally get the entire menu. I am paying for the entire menu, although I'm only eating a scrambled egg. That's it. I'm consuming one little bit of all the services they provide, and yet I'm paying for 7 pages worth of that menu. And so welcome to our world. And not only that, but the recipe to make that is in Latin because it's in COBOL that no one speaks. So they've got a monk that's sitting in the back from the 14th century with this little pen that's on parchment that's writing out the menus. They have to translate it for me. There you go. You're welcome. You're welcome.
I like that. So I'll actually defend, the big three core companies for certain use cases. I agree. So the big three core companies and the 42 different core integrations that I've got to look at in my career, they are designed, first off, not to be connected to the internet, right? When you build online banking, there's no such thing as a user in a core system, right? So what most of us did, Q2, Alchemy, Banno, Jawala, et cetera, right? Coney.
Yeah.
We actually enabled these systems to continue to be relevant for over a decade.
Yeah.
So they were faced with the internet, and we added another abstraction layer in order to not solve the root problem. And that was the right answer, by the way, because the majority of consumers were, we used to use the word omni-channel, right? They actually did come into a branch. They actually did use all of the different channels in order to get service. The problem is that the challenger banks, they're skimming the cream off the top. Yep. They're saying, I'm not going to offer horizontally all those features on the menu to your analogy. I'm going to offer one of them, and I'm going to offer it at scale. And I'm really going to offer it at scale. And then the piece that we're probably running more into is not the digital banks, but some of them you mentioned, N26 and others, are in our pull requests and helping out with the project. But really the people that we're finding adopting it the most, they don't even think they're a fintech. They're a gaming company. They're we were working with a company that does all of the closings for Coldwell Banker and Remax. And so we see them as like high transaction, high volume, things that if treasury management was modern and API driven, they would use the solution. And so I think this word fintech is kind of fun right now. I wish we could keep the word fintech as direct to consumer rather than anything that has to do with payments, banking, and stored value.
Yeah.
But every company, if everything's fintech, then nothing's fintech. And anybody who's ever used Uber or Airbnb and the payment is embedded into the experience, now if you're at Techstars or Plug and Play, you assume you need that functionality, right? And so every company wants to accept payments and stored value and pay it out. And that's really the market that Moov goes after, is not the, it was built to have developer.bankname.com. That was the initial goal. And, I'm stupid. So I thought 17,000 banks and credit unions who couldn't keep up with Citi, BBVA, and Capital One would maybe join together and work on a single solution for this problem. But, they don't get it. So we sell to the tech companies. That's why when we started, I said, well, everyone who uses this is on the West Coast. They're not awake yet. But that's really the focus, is how do you embed this into your application stack? And we target the developers. And so, I don't think Moov.io would be a fintech presenter, or a Finovate presenter, right? Or Money 2020 presenter. But for those people presenting, maybe I'd run them down and be like, yo, you should use this. It's better.
So 3 quick points to make. One, if you have questions on LinkedIn in the comments section, ask them there. All right. Like, why did Wade choose to wear a flannel shirt today? Sam, you're in Florida. Why are you wearing a hoodie? It's cold. It's like 70 degrees right now. So, I'm dying. And nice choice of flannel, by the way. And I love the little wood behind you. You look like you're in your lodge, and I'm so proud of you. So again, if you have questions on LinkedIn in the comment section, throw them in there. We'll address every single one of them. If you want to hit the like button or the share button or whatever, I'm making Bianca back in our London office happy right now, because evidently we want to work the algorithm that LinkedIn has. So if one person could just keep hitting that like button like 90 times, as I've been doing I just did it. There you go. I'm going to keep hitting this like button like 90 times. There you go. That just made Bianca really happy. And if there's like a unicorn one, click on that. She'll be even happier. All right. So, but here's the point I'd like you to touch on a little bit, Wade, which is open source, which inside and out, and you understand, and the people that are on Moov.io get. But I think the majority of folks in the banking space, this is still a foreign term to them, and they're terrified by the concept of open source. So Can you kind of defend, from your position, can you defend open source? And the reason I say that is I was at the Jack Henry event in San Diego last year with Ben Mertz on stage, and Ben was talking, and he was talking about open source. And I kind of stopped him and said, I don't think you grasp, and I pointed to the audience, of how unique that is, in a good way, to have your technology head sitting up here looking at you and saying, this is the best thing in the world I can do for you. So there you go.
Yeah.
I'm throwing you a softball question, Wade.
Oh, man. Well, first off, that I had any influence on Ben Metz would be surprising to me. So maybe he influenced me on this. But when it comes to software developers, everybody goes in first. So whether that's picking, 15 years ago, maybe we used IBM DB2 or Oracle or Microsoft SQL,
Yep.
right? Nobody uses that anymore. And if you have a software engineer that says, boy, I'm going to use IBM MQ series and jam that into DB2, you would not hire them. I think that's fair to say for every tech company that's worried about scale. So what we're seeing in open source is we know open source started as a operating system, right? So with Linux, and the whole internet runs on Linux now. That game's over. The web servers, the programming languages, the databases, the message queues, Kafka and ActiveMQ, and the caching layers, Redis, and other tools. All of this stuff just keeps on building up, and the cloud providers continue to enable them. And then the open source projects kind of do the next layer, and then ultimately the cloud providers buy them or partner with them, and it keeps on going up the stack. It's not much different than 30 years ago how IBM ran mainframes and DEC and others. They just kept on adding these layers on top of that. The difference with open source versus proprietary software is simply scale. It's how do you get the most eyeballs on a problem that is not the differentiator for any one company. So we used to 20 years ago say, this is written in .NET and it uses Microsoft SQL Server, and that was one of the sales pitches that you had. Anymore, nobody's saying that this was written in React, an open source project from Facebook. It's hosted on Kubernetes, a open source project from Google. Its message queue is Kafka, which is spun out of LinkedIn, and now Confluent use it. And the data is persisted into MongoDB, another open source and publicly traded company, right? That may be a great tech stack. And we also use an open source programming language because even .NET had to go open source, because none of these things are the key differentiator. No one gives a shit if your ACH file is written in .NET or Go or in a Docker container.
Amen.
They just care that it works. That's it.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is give these atomic building blocks, or call them microservices or what have you, to the community, Many community members need professional services and hosting, and those are the people we help. But others like Bank of America and Discover Financial and Plaid and Square and PayPal, they just need something to work. And so they get to come in, contribute, run trillions of dollars of transactions over the last couple of years through the libraries, harden the libraries, add something called unit tests, which actually means that you get the same result each time compared to other solutions out there. And everybody wins. And that's the exciting piece about it. And to your point earlier about the menu of options, does Moov have everything? Heck no. Right. Nor do we want to do everything. But there are some of these basic building blocks that the community can deliver very well. And we think that's exciting. We've got one customer that just launched a small business lending platform, right? And we're collaborating. Yeah, really good timing.
Yeah.
And they use a legacy kind of platform that oddly enough it's DNA. I don't even care. So they're utilizing this system in order to do their lending platform, and they're talking to me and they're going, hey, we looked in stored procedures of this product and it's supposed to be the best product, most modern product. And we found the contributors' names or the author names in these stored procedures. And we looked them up on LinkedIn and then we hunted them down. And the first two people we found are dead. And it's the most modern core banking platform out there.
Can I give you an analogy of that? You just made me laugh. All right. So this is a true story. So and I get paid every time I mention this. I was on submarines. Wade's going to go, oh God, here we go. He's going to go there. So I spent the 80s on submarines. The submarine I was on was actually built the same year I was born in 1966. I'm that old. Shut up, Wade. So the guidance package for the submarine was built by two guys that worked for Sperry Unisys back in the day. And it's a complete math model. So it's a electrostatically supported gyro monitor. Long way to say it's the same guidance package that the space shuttle used, right? Because you have no clue underwater. You're not you're not shooting at a mountain and triangulating your
right.
space. So all the manuals that talked about how this electrostatically supported gyro monitor's computer model work were written by two guys. Those two guys, one of them was dead by the time I went out to sea, and the other was in an insane asylum, not making that shit up. So one went nuts, the other was it was dead. And it was funny because we said, how do we know this theory works? And we're like, well, we haven't crashed anything in 30 years. So far, so good. But a lot of the theories they had put forth were still being tested because they weren't sure if they were right, by the way. These are the submarines that back in the day where, you had nuclear weapons on them and everything else. To your point, right? I mean, we've got some of these systems which are old.
The same analogies work, right? So if you say, I don't know a modern course I don't know of a core system that doesn't have more than 10,000 known bugs in it.
Yep.
And many of them are much bigger. There's no test coverage on it. It's basically tribal knowledge. It's written in an era that we didn't have the tooling that we have today. We, as computer science as a profession, it was like 15 years old. Right. So, but the defense is, hey, at Moov, I can prove this works. There's a test case and I can prove it, and we fuzz all the logic, and I can guarantee this works. Even if Fiserv doesn't follow the Notcha spec, I can prove how they don't work, right? And I have test cases that say, here's how PEP Plus doesn't follow the Notcha standard, so we have to modify this for them because nobody's going to fix PEP Plus. But the defense on PEP Plus is we've been in the industry or any of the other kind of platforms. We've been in the industry for 20 years. We've sent trillions of dollars of transactions through this. Therefore, it's an assumptive close. It works.
Here's my favorite thing, what you just did for everyone who's watching it. It's not a developer. He just actually spoke in code. It's an assumptive close. I love you, Wade. The fact that you just did that, in his mind, as he's speaking, he's seeing a line of code, which just made me laugh.
Yeah, it's like
that is so you.
But you take that versus B of A. I bet B of A has a couple ACH libraries and Fedwire and Check21 libraries from different vendors, right?
Yeah.
Or early warning systems, another, you've probably heard of them, right? So these are people that are in the project. B of A ran a year of transactions, $4.2 trillion worth of transactions to the library, found any edge cases, and actually wrote test cases for those edge cases. My team fixed the edge cases with test coverage. Most of the errors that we had were in international transfers, which not a lot of people use, so it wasn't part of the project at the time. But now it's proven, right? It just works. And if you started from scratch, how are you going to go run 4.2 trillion transactions? No, those are production bugs where payments fall on the floor that you have to deal with, versus a community of experts that are working on the same atomic kind of problem.
So a couple of questions I want to take. And yes, everybody, I know Wade's brought a connection is much better than mine, because Wade, what's the connection you have again? Go ahead and brag. What's the speed? What's the bandwidth speed you have?
Well, most people have a gigabit up down into their house. I do have a guy that works on Moov that has 10 gig out of Cedar Falls, Iowa, into his house. And so I feel a little shady compared to him.
Yeah. So he is like he's like, it's ridiculous. He's like bandwidth on steroids, and I live in Florida. I would just stop right there, right?
Well, I'm on a mountainside, so
I'm on a mountainside. Yeah, whatever.
Just pay for it, you get it.
I'm on a retention pond, so hey, that's Florida. So I was just quickly, because my bandwidth sucks. I've been going through some of the comments, and I want to ask you. We're gonna quick fire these, all right? Because we're a little bit over time, but I want to do this because they've asked. So Corey LeBlanc, love you, Corey. He asked, with so many people out there doing their own thing, how important do you believe consolidation is in the open source movement?
Yeah, so I've chatted with a bunch of project founders of companies like Elastic, Confluent, Lightbend that have very successful. Some of them have IPO'd $7 billion IPOs. There has to be somebody who's in charge of the community, and that's what we're trying to do. And we know as a company or an organization, we won't capture all the value we create, but you do need one place. And the worst case example that I know of is Cloudera and Hortonworks, but they really fragmented the Hadoop ecosystem. Two companies, both went public, and they just beat each other up, right? Yeah. Ultimately, they merged back under Cloudera, one big happy family. But at that time, Kafka, Spark, and some of these other tools came out because they were kind of beating each other up. Now, that being said, what a better form of capitalism than create all this value. So, I do think you need to have a community manager that does the annual conferences and makes sure the coding standards are up to par and all that type of stuff. But that doesn't mean that there can't be people that just contribute, like Bank of America or the Clearinghouse and EWS. I don't think I'm ever going to sell them anything, but they're creating a ton of value for the community. Just frankly, even being in the Slack room or offering up their test cases.
So another question for you. This is from Veronica. Hey, Veronica. It's going to slaughter your last name, Barabaic. But she said, I'm in support of variety. In reality, what I witness is when multiple tools are used in the same project, you get an inability to collaborate and transfer your work. And I see multiple teammates looking at each other, speaking different languages. Wade, I mean, you've built, Banno, you built out an entire product that's now used at Jack Henry. You sold it to Jack Henry, had a lot of success there. As somebody who's run a group that's done this, how would you respond to something like that?
So I think because of cloud services and containers, you get to, if you adopt kind of the microservices patterns that you've seen from Chime or Monzo or many others in the industry, Simple, you actually can pick up individual components and stitch them in. So, if that argument is accurate, then, why are APIs important? Most projects are just orchestrating API calls and bringing them back together. So what Moov does is it provides APIs, and those are either REST or gRPC in Docker containers. And so you don't really care what programming language is underneath it. It's more of a function that you can pass something in and out outside that. So that's a more technical answer. I think on a higher level, like picking these different pieces off the shelf to build something, the developers are already doing that. They may not be telling their manager, that they're using React and MongoDB and Kafka and Redis and Kubernetes and Docker and the programming language they're using, Scala or Go or Java. I mean, all these are open source too. So the developers are already doing this, and frankly, we would just want to give the developers the freedom to build amazing things quickly.
So here's a good one from your son, Derek Sutton. Hello, Derek.
Yeah,
there you go. Derek said lending regs coming out of this event, so the COVID event, the CARE Act, and everything else. So lending regs coming out of this event will sink core development for a decade. Hell of a statement. Would you agree with that?
Well, I first, can we say it's been sunk for more than a decade already?
I love you, Wade.
That's really what core systems do, though. They indemnify the financial institution from regulatory change, and every single roadmap item for most core providers is reacting to regulatory change, because their MSA indemnifies the institution that they'll meet any regulatory burden that the institution is going to encounter, right? That's really what they're selling, not software. And then the number of banks is consolidating, right? So, hey, let's go raise $1 billion and build a branch banking core in a marketplace that's consolidating at 3 to 5% a year. And all the deposits, since the financial crisis, are running to the top 20. Let's see if Matt Harris wants to fund that one. Not.
Matt Harris is a legend, by the way. Bain Capital, been doing this since like 2000. So nice inside joke, but I'm with you.
All right. Thanks for explaining it to everybody. So
Wade translator. There you go.
I appreciate it. It takes a world of them. So that's what you have to do as a provider, and providers are getting beat up because they really can't increase their costs that much outside of ancillary services. So to Derek's question, is this going to be a burden? Yeah, it's going to be a burden, no different than the Durbin Amendment, where we had to actually write code for 2 interpretations of the bill because the deadline was set, but the actual bill wasn't structured. And so we're writing software for 2 different interpretations. And then at the last second, you have to add, if asset size is over 10 billion on my call report, then I calculate it this way. Otherwise, I got to do it this way. And so, it's really hard. I will say that being a bank vendor is much harder than being a bank customer. And you got to remember, most fintech, direct to consumer, you're a bank customer. That means you're not under the requirements of vendor due diligence that a bank as a service provider would have. So for us, selling developer tools to tech companies that partner with the bank is a heck of a lot easier than being, as the FFIEC defines it, a critical vendor to a financial institution. And so I think that combination of less regulatory burden on the fintech or direct to consumer side that is renting a charter versus the bank that's going to have additional regulatory burden. Maybe to Derek's question, the gap gets bigger, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we're seeing that in real time right now. If you look at the CARE Act that's been passed in the U.S. and the government's lending requirements and how they're setting this up. I mean, the CARE Act was passed, the money was set aside, the details are being literally written down as we speak, nonstop, right? I mean, that's where we're at today, and that you would expect that to be happening in an event like we have. All right, well, Wade, we've gone way over. I will say this, Wade, we're going to go back through everybody that was on and did comments. I'll make sure we get a reply to those. Wade, you've got folks asking questions from Nigeria. Not
Excellent.
joking. Just fantastic. And a lot of people asking, what's the best way to engage with Moov.io? And for those that put those comments in, we will give you that response. What's the best place to learn more about Moov.io, Wade, for the folks that are still on?
I would join the open community. It's slack.moov.io. There's over 200 financial technology practitioners that are in there. That most of the discussion isn't even about Moov. It's about different providers and all kinds of different things. So join that Slack channel and follow us on Twitter. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for shaving that mountain man beard that you have. I still can't believe you didn't show up with a beard. I'm so disappointed in you because I hyped the beard and you didn't show up with it. So kiss my ass. Okay, folks, we've run out of time. Again, Wade, I want to thank you. Again, kiss my ass, Wade. Everyone else, I love you much more than I love Wade. If you want to know more about 11FS, it's just, hey, 40 minutes with you and I'm done.
Hey, it's not 10, it's 11. It's not 10, it's 11.
All right. So what
11
this is
file system. 11.
Okay.
It's not the 10th file system. It's the 11th file system.
If anybody in the U.S. has watched CNN with Cuomo and Governor Cuomo, that's what this is. But oh hell, that makes me the governor because I'm older than you, so I hate you even more. All right, folks. For me, follow me at Sam Maule on Twitter. Look, we're going to be doing this for the next couple of weeks. Tomorrow we got the president of TAB Bank, Kurt. Love Kurt to no end. We're going to keep mixing this up with, hermits like Wade and then bank presidents and folks with the bigger companies. We want to get the best mix we can. If you know somebody you think would be great to have on the show, please let me know. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Sam.
You're welcome, Wade.
I love you.
And